Hey guys, my name is Gareth and welcome back to my Finance Fitness YouTube channel where I break down personal finance, investments, real estate, stock markets. So if any of those topics interest you, make sure you subscribe to the channel. You can also click on the notification bell so that you receive an alert whenever I upload a new video. So one of the common things that people wonder about is whether they should rent or buy the home that they're currently living in. So that's exactly what I'm going to look at in today's video. First off, I've invested in a new microphone and light, and I hope that it will improve the viewing experience for you. So please let me know in the comments section if it's better. One of the great things about renting is that you can give notice and leave the property within just a few months without much hassle. This gives great flexibility and could be one of the reasons why more and more millennials are opting to rent the home that they live in instead of buying that property. And when you're renting, you don't have to worry about trying to time the market, whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. None of that affects you. You're only worried about making sure you lock in a good rental rate in your lease agreement. And if you need to have maintenance work done, it's normally quite straightforward. You can just pick up the phone and call the landlord or the property manager and they'll come and sort it out, and it won't cost you anything. Some companies offer living allowances to staff that rent the properties where they live. This is often not extended to people that own the properties where they live. So by renting, you'll be able to take advantage of some of these types of benefits. One of the biggest cons of renting is that after years of paying tens of thousands of dollars, you won't have anything to show for it because you've not purchased an asset. Depending on the country you live in, there could be additional costs to consider when it comes to renting. For example, here in Italy where I live, you often have to pay a 1-month commission to the agent for finding the property. This is not for them to manage the property, but just to set up the lease agreement. So while as a tenant, you may have the benefit of being able to leave the property on short notice, the landlord could also ask you to leave the property. This could be for many reasons. Maybe you have a dispute with the landlord, in which case they opt to evict you, or maybe the landlord is in the process of selling the property and need you to vacate it so that they can sell. And if you're a tenant in a very vibrant area that's up and coming and in high demand, you could be subjected to rental escalations that are well above inflation. And if these annual rental escalations are more than the increases in your salary, then you'll be spending a bigger and bigger portion of your disposable income on rent every month. Now let's look at buying. Well, one of the biggest benefits of buying is that you're investing in something that's going to go up in value over time. And so by buying the property that you live in, you will enjoy the benefit of that asset growth. Each month you're paying your mortgage, and that monthly mortgage repayment is split between an interest component and a capital component. And the capital component goes towards reducing the total loan balance that you still have outstanding. So while the interest cost is just an expense, the capital amount reduces that loan balance and thereby increasing your total wealth. When people refer to having equity in a property, it's just the difference between the value of that property minus any loans outstanding against that property. So if you have a property of $250,000, but there's still a mortgage outstanding of $200,000, then your equity in that property is $50,000. Now maybe over time the value of that property increases to say $300,000 and you've repaid some of the loans outstanding and the balance is now $170,000. Your equity in that property is now $300,000 minus the $170,000, so $130,000. And you can use this increase in equity to your advantage. How can you do this? Well, one of the most common ways to do this is to refinance that property and increase the loan amount from 170 to maybe 220 and take out that $50,000 gain and reinvest that into your next investment using it as a down payment or deposit. For many people, buying a home is a massive milestone in their lives and something they look forward to for many, many years. There's a certain sense of achievement when you buy a home, and I remember for me, when I bought my first place, it was an incredibly exciting moment in my life. You can make the changes that you want to that property without first having to run it by a landlord. Maybe you want to repaint it or you want to do some improvements. You don't need the landlord approval and you get to benefit from the increase in value from doing those improvements. Now, some countries allow you to deduct the interest cost on your mortgage when you submit your annual tax returns, so be sure to check with the tax advisor on this. When investing in property, you generally have to give a down payment or deposit of 0% to 50%, sometimes maybe even more. Most commonly, I see in the region of about 25%. So if you're investing in a property that's worth $250,000 and you need to put down a 25% down payment or deposit, that is $62,500, and that money will be tied up in that property. The fact that you can't access that money or invest it in something else means that there is a bit of an opportunity cost. Liquidity refers to how quickly you can sell something and convert it into cash without incurring a loss. If you want to sell your stock, you can do it within a second. But when it comes to property, it's a much more drawn out process. From listing the property, finding a buyer, negotiating, doing the contracting, closing the deal, this can be months before it's all completed, and it also means that you have less flexibility to just sell the property and leave. Buying and selling property is expensive. Normally, to buy a property in markets like the US, you're looking at 2 to 3% transaction costs. And in some countries, it could be much higher, especially due to taxes on more expensive properties. There are lawyers' fees, agents' commissions, clearance certificates, and all of these costs add up. And so when you look at buying a property, you need to make sure that you consider all of these costs. It's normal for a property to experience some wear and tear over time. In my experience, most commonly, you would have problems with a water boiler or a toilet, for example. But in certain countries, you need to replace the roof and service the heating and cooling systems every 10 to 15 years. And as if maintenance and mortgage costs are already not enough, there are additional costs when it comes to ownership. Things like insurance and property taxes also need to be paid every month. So I think the best way to illustrate the comparison between renting and buying a property is through an example. So let's say you found a property and you want to rent it for $1,200 a month. Or alternatively, you could buy it for $250,000, giving a $50,000 down payment or deposit and borrowing the remaining $200,000 over 30 years with an interest rate of 3.25%. So let's assume that you're going to live in this property for a period of 5 years. In the rental example, your total monthly expenses are $1,200. And since you don't have to give a $50,000 down payment or deposit, you can go ahead and invest that and generate a return of 9.8% by investing in a low-cost equity index fund. In future videos, I will cover some of these equity index funds, so keep an eye out for that. So over a period of 5 years, you would have paid $72,000 in total for rent, and your investment portfolio of $50,000 would have grown to $79,796. This means it's increased by nearly $30,000. So if we add this all up and take our $72,000 of rental expense minus the increase in our investment portfolio of $29,796, it means that our total rental expense over that 5-year period is just over $42,000. In the buying example, the numbers get a bit more tricky, so let's break it down. First, your mortgage expense every month will be $870. Your insurance will be $70, maintenance costs $100, and $150 for property taxes. This means that your total monthly expenses will be $1,190 or $71,400 over the full 5-year period. But your property value would have also increased over that 5-year period at say 2.5% per year, increasing from $250,000 to $282,852. And at the same time, through your monthly mortgage repayments, you'd be paying down the capital balance outstanding on your mortgage, reducing it from $200,000 in the beginning to $178,614. And remember, even though your total mortgage repayments are more than this, That monthly mortgage is split between an interest component and a capital component, and only the capital component goes towards reducing your total loan outstanding. So your equity in this property has increased from $50,000, which was your initial down payment or deposit, to over $104,000, an increase of over $54,000. But remember, there are costs for buying and selling a property. So we'll deduct $6,000 when you purchase it and $6,500 when you sell the property. This means that your total increase in equity of that property over the 5 years is just over $41,000. So if we add this all up over the 5 years, you would have had outflows of $71,400, but that is offset by an increase in equity in that portfolio of $41,739. So your total cost of ownership over 5 years is just under $30,000. And in this example, we can see that purchasing a property was much more cost effective than renting a property. But what if your interest rate was 5% as opposed to 3.25%, and property markets did not increase, and after 2 years you decide to leave the property and move somewhere else? And in this case, the numbers look quite different. So first, let's look at the rental example. You're still paying $1,200 a month for 24 months, and that adds up to $28,800 in rent. Since you don't have a down payment to make, you still invest your $50,000, and over 2 years that grows to $60,280. So an increase of $10,280. So bringing that all together, we've got total rental costs of $28,800 minus the increase in our investment portfolio of $10,280 means our total cost for renting for the 2-year period is $18,520. And for the buying option, your monthly costs increase from $1,190 to $1,394, or $33,447 over that 2-year period. And the reason for that increase is because your interest rate jumped from 3.25% to 5%, increasing your monthly mortgage repayments. In this example, we assumed that the property prices did not increase, and so your property is still worth $250,000. But since you've been making your monthly repayments on your mortgage, the balance has come down from the initial $200,000 to now just under $194,000. And after deducting transaction cost for when you're buying and when you're selling, your total equity value in this property is now $43,552. So it actually declined by $6,448. And if we bring all of this together, we had total outflows of $33,447 plus the decrease in the equity of $6,448 means that the total cost to own this property in the 2-year period was just under $40,000. And we see that in this scenario, it was much more expensive to own the property, and you would have been way better off just renting the property. Now, I know there were a lot of numbers in these examples, so I hope they weren't too confusing, but they really help to illustrate some of these concepts. So in summary, if you're looking at a shorter time frame of maybe 3 years or less, then renting could be the better option, because you avoid all of the transaction costs for buying and selling a property, and you don't have to worry about trying to time the market and getting the investment right. But if you're going to live there for a longer period of time, then it may be the best option to actually buy the property. Of course, there are many variables here that can affect this decision, like the interest rate you get or the size of the down payment you have to give, maybe taxes affected, and so it really depends on your own circumstances. Also, lower value properties tend to have a smaller difference between the monthly rental amount and the monthly mortgage repayment compared to high value expensive properties where it's often a better option to just rent it. I'd love to know which option, whether it's renting or buying, you consider better for your situation and why. So let me know in the comments section. So that's it for the video today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next week.